Iron Works, home of the Big Blu Hammer manufacturer, and today I've got to do some cold texturing. So before I get started on that, I'm going to go through all of the maintenance that you do on a daily basis, an hourly basis, the things that you're going to need to look over on a hammer like this. We'll start by oiling the gibbs and cleaning up around the head area. And what we've got here, you've got 4 gibbs, 3 of them moved, 1 of them stationary in the back. And you want to drop the head of the hammer down, make sure they're nice and clean. Just give them a quick wipe down, get some of the old oil off, raise them back up. Clean the air shaft here. And with the gibbs, you can use 3-in-1 oil, you can use motor oil. We've got a thick, heavy Way Lube, which is for lathes, and it's a pretty thick oil. You just put a little bit down on each gib. You don't have to oil the shaft, it oils itself. And I like to just sort of peek down in there and get a couple drops on the gib in the back. Run it a little bit, make sure that works in. And the gibbs are ready to go. Sometimes people will put just a little bit up here too on the mini valve. So now that I've got the gibbs squared away, we'll go in, and with the gibbs, you probably want to lube them twice a day, maybe when you start in the mornings and again at lunchtime, or after you've been working for a few hours. And as for the gibbs, if you'll know if the hammer starts getting sticky, or if you can see it's really dirty, you'll want to clean those out and re-oil them. If you're adding lubrication and they start to, after you've lubed them, you feel a great difference in the hammer, you've probably gone too long without cleaning them or lubing them. And really, that's going to be your biggest point where you're going to lose power. And like I said, I'm doing a bunch of pickets today, so I want to make sure that I've got all the power, all the efficiency out of this hammer that I can. So with the head squared away, I'll go ahead and check my dies. Torquing them down to 35 pounds. And once you seat your dies the first time, you'll want to run it 5-10 minutes, a couple of heats on a hot piece of metal, check them again, and that really makes sure that they're settled in place. And after they're seated, you'll want to keep a sort of a visual lock on the set screws and make sure that you don't have a set screw working out. But you can go several hours without checking your dies. You might want to just check them periodically, and you'll get a good feel for the set of dies and the hammer that you're using as to when you're going to need to when to check those dies. But as a rule of thumb, every few hours of work you'll want to check and make sure that those dies are still seated in there properly. So got the front side of the hammer squared away, everything should be good here. So we'll come around to the back, and I want to check my oiler and dryer and make sure, first off, that my dryer isn't full of water. And if you're in an air system with a bunch of water, or an area with a lot of humidity, you might want to check this every hour or two, because that can fill up pretty quick. Here in this shop, we don't have a lot of problem with it, so we just check it at the beginning of each day when we're starting with this hammer. Now my pressure's set to the pressure that I want it, and I need to check. It looks like I need to add a little bit to my oil, so I'm going to add some there. So to do that, we've got to shut the hammer down. And this is also another thing you can do at the end of every day if you want to. We've got an on-off switch here, so I'm going to turn that off, and that turns the line pressure off. And then there's a bleeder valve up front, and I just sort of slowly open that up until I see the head rest, and then I'll open it the rest of the way. Now that I know there's no more compressed air in the system, I close it back, and I'm ready to do what I need to do. This type of oiler has a quick release on it. You just push down, rotate 1/8 of a turn, and there's a sweet spot right there. It comes out. So you can see I've got plenty of oil in there probably, but I'll add a little bit more. If you can adjust the speed at which this oils, but oil isn't something you should be adding very often. If your hammer's going through a lot of oil, you probably need to turn your oiler down. These hammers, we add oil, every couple months, and we use these hammers on a daily basis. So I've got a little air tool oil, and you can buy that at Lowe's or Home Depot. Anywhere that sells compressors has air tool oil, and I want to fill it up. And it has a max fill line, but you really don't need to go more than halfway. Like I said, if you're going through a lot of oil, you probably need to turn that oiler down. So now I've got that oil filled back up. Pop it back up in there and rotate until the lock clicks in place. And it's still loose, but it's held in there by compressed air. Now if you've got any trash or debris come through your dryer, you can do this the same way. Take that and clean it out as you need to, and it pops back on the same way. There we go. So now I'm ready to turn the air back on to the hammer. So I slowly open it up. You hear the air pressure build up, the head will rise back up again. If you turn it on real quick, it can cause the hammer to strike. No big deal, but it can be a little unsettling, so you want to make sure to turn that on nice and slowly.